You'll cut it out anyway.
I'm not going to cut it out. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we're good, dude. We're running. We're up.
3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Get Into It.
Not from the car.
Not from the car,
Or
not
your
from your
iPhone.
cell phone, not from Zoom.
This is the first time we've been face to face in a minute.
We are about 6 feet away from each other. 5.5 feet, 4 feet.
I know you foos.
But let's. I just want to say, I hope everyone who's listening is safe. I hope their families are safe. I hope you're practicing social distancing. We want to be doing our show because I think it's important for people to hear that that world's not going to stop. People are going to need entertainment. So
More so than ever.
More so than ever. So here we are. We're going to talk about quite a few things. I want to get into Quiver and what I'm doing with my movie, the Porche film, which is called
Love and Betrayal.
Love and Betrayal. On the Force, I've added On the Force.
Ooh.
Yeah, I added On the Force because when you're looking for a film on Amazon and you see the name, sometimes Love and Betrayal, it's enticing, it's interesting, but On the Force at least gives you the definition of it is a police movie. It's about police. So I felt like On the Force was an important thing to add, especially if people are just surfing. Yeah. Oh, what should I watch? What should I watch? And you like police stories and you like true crime. I think it gives you a little bit more stuff. So whether or not that works or not, I'll let you know. But I definitely did it to add another level of understanding of that this documentary is about love and betrayal, and it's a cop story. So. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But thank you, Dave. Thank you, Tootie, for being here today.
Yeah, thank you guys.
You guys still working?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
You, David?
Yeah, we're doing some stuff, man. Like you said, the content doesn't quit.
Yeah. It doesn't, right?
There's always something to create.
Yeah.
How is Access different for you now, Tootie?
I'm one of 3.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm doing hair, makeup, and prompter.
Do you have a picture of the crew working at all?
Lopez does.
Oh, let's try to get it and post it just so you can see what.
I think there's a couple photos out. Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool to show a crew in today's Corona atmosphere.
Yeah.
It looks like very indie.
Yeah, but I wonder though how this is going to affect everything in the future because, like Jimmy Kimmel's doing his show from his living room,
which feels like a public access show.
Yeah,
but with a dude with a lot of talent. That's the only difference.
Right,
yeah.
right. And Jimmy Fallon and stuff. But I wonder what this is going to do for the business because are we going to be able to? Access is a union show, so there's a lot of people, who are under contracts and unions and stuff like that. Where Extra wasn't, and so Extra literally went from a big crew to everybody wearing a bunch of hats and a small crew, and I wonder how this is going to play out because we're doing the show. And the show looks good. Let's
talk about this real quick. You had some trouble a few shows back with. Your editor with your stalled production, right? Then we had the show about Don't Be Stopped.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you connected with Rich Alarcon, who is my editor of choice.
Yep. Very talented.
Very talented.
Same area
Dude, you guys are from the same area. A lot of great talent came out of San Diego. He's been nominated for music video awards. He did one of my favorite music videos, which is Katy Perry's Friday.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, so he edited that, and it's like a little movie.
Yeah,
right?
It is. I love it.
And he did Pitbull videos. He's done.
He lived at Paisley Park. He's told me.
Yeah,
Prince.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of Prince stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But you can tell in this movie
they flew him in. Prince flew him in.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night one night to cut this. I forgot what video, but he flew him in and he spent the weekend and maybe a couple weeks. I think he.
No, he was there for a while. He said he lived at Paisley Park.
Yeah, but he's a super talented. But let's get back to your movie. So you called him. He viewed it. He said, "There's lots to do here." And here's what I love. He wrote to me and said, "Hey, I'm working on Tootie's film. You're gonna love it. You're gonna freak out."
Yeah.
There was a bunch of footage that was not being used.
Wow.
Yeah.
In this movie, tons of footage that is making this so much better. He goes angles and different takes and stuff that they thought was not good. He goes, I'm using that and making transitions and stuff. And look, we're used to watching films that have great transitions and great movement. He also said that he was creating an incredible soundtrack with extrememusic.com music.
He is, dude.
It was really helping motivate and generate, excitement.
He's kicking ass, and him and I are on the same page. And this pandemic actually kind of worked in my favor because Rich didn't have anything to do.
Yeah, Rich said your movie's looking good, that it's going to be very impressive, and he also said that the soundtrack's going to be off the hook. So congratulations. Glad you're out of the quicksand. What we talked about before, which I still want to stress, is that, and by the way, I took my own advice. Since we did our last show, I am developing 2 new scripts with 2 new writers. And
Am I one of those? Do I not know you?
3 scripts if it's yours too, and with 3 new writers. And, those scripts are going to be ready for pitch on Zoom, via Zoom. I spoke to someone at Netflix just the other day. Yeah. They said April 15th, we'll be happy to take a new pitch from you via Zoom. Yeah. So that's all happening.
Really nice.
Yeah.
I like that. See, that the pandemic is bringing people together.
Yeah. Hey, Dave and I actually are doing another project, not for film or TV, but for a podcast.
You guys are going to be doing a new podcast?
Yeah.
We already have Irate Masterminds, which is a podcast. What is that podcast about? Is it just about lifestyle and having fun?
Yeah, it's
homies.
It's my brother and my other brother. So we just get together, talk about the current events, life, memes, love.
Yeah.
Do you drink at all?
We do. We
get your drink on.
Yeah, we get our drink on. We get a little loose, and we have some fun. It's just another creative outlet. You know what I mean? So we get
So you have Irate Masterminds. And what other podcasts are you doing?
So Nahara, he had a show called Latino Top, and he wanted to develop it into a podcast. And then he also did a pilot called Nahara in America, which is like a political satire and kind of like in the vein of like a Colbert show. And he wants to do these. So he hit me up. We got on a call with his manager, and they said, yeah, let's do it. So, and we're going to start working on those 2 projects with him.
Let's just say Rick Nahara is a super talented guy. He deserves to be giving out advice, to be talking to other celebrities. He's worked with some of the best in the business, and I'm sure it's going to be super successful. And if you want to go back and listen to an early podcast, we had Rick Nahara on the show. Yeah. We even had him back as a guest host, and you can hear all about Rick Nahara's career as a young writer. His pedigree is tremendous. So I highly recommend you go back and listen. And also congratulations and good luck on the show. I'm sure it's going to be a super success. If you're sitting at home, which we all are, by the way, pull out your computer, write your stories, finish your scripts, get ready for the pitches if you can. I by the way, I'm pretty sure that at Sundance next year, there's going to be some film that was shot during
the pandemic.
Oh no, I've already reached out to my buddy Hermosa, who has a Alexa Mini. He's got everything. He's a director.
Great place for a horror film right now, right? Just on the empty streets, running on an empty freeway or some shit.
Yeah, but you can get. I mean, you could be real indie, but I don't know.
I'm kind of shooting something like that at my house.
Are you really?
By myself, yeah.
You should do it. Yeah. You should do it. Well, dude, there was a movie at Sundance or maybe Slam Dance a couple of years back that was shot entirely at Disneyland, in the Disneyland park,
without them knowing. Oh, I think I read something about that. So
it's possible you can do it.
But he had done it years before, right? It took him a while to piece it all together.
Yeah, you got to get creative, but it's definitely a weird time. Hey, so I was thinking about trying to get Peri Gilpin on the horn here and talking to her about her career and what she's got coming. Are you guys down with that?
Oh yeah, please.
Absolutely.
Let's dial her up.
All right, let's dial her up. All right, so we've got Peri Gilpin on the show today. Peri, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Really appreciate it.
Can't wait to hear what we're going to talk about.
The crux of our show has always been inspiration, where you came from, what road you took, how you got there. Did you come from a family that was in show business? How did you think about becoming an actress?
Well, the short answer is my mom was a school teacher when I was born. She was very young. She was 19 when I was born. My mother and father were students at Baylor University. My father wanted to be a pastor, but he was a football player at Baylor, and he was studying and wanting to go to seminary. My father was a second string football player, and he got upset because they put a third string guy in one day at college at a Baylor game, and he walked off the field and he walked away from school and he quit school and he became a DJ. And he wound up having the top morning radio show in the country in Philadelphia in the 70s. His name was Jim O'Brien. He would take me to the radio station with him, and I would sing happy birthday to people. And he even had a great gig where he was a DJ, and he'd do a show from the Gemini Drive-In Theater in the middle of Dallas. And my mom would take my sister and I up there, and we'd watch him do a show, from his booth that was sort of glass encased, like by the concession stand, and my dad being there doing a show. So of course, I just was enamored of the whole world. It's what my dad did. It's what what I thought was so cool. And then they divorced, and my mom married my stepdad. She stopped teaching and started modeling. And what she really always wanted to do is be an actress. So my sister and I went and saw her in a play, and we'll never forget, the lights came down on her because she was supposed to be like on the front porch, like just dreaming because this boy doesn't like her yet. She didn't know what to do. And the lights came down on her, and my sister yells out, "Mama!" from the audience. It was so sweet. And so I just became enamored of acting then. And I think that I was probably about 6 or 7 years old. So between my dad and the radio and being an actress, and wanting to be an actress, it's really insane that I wound up playing Roz. It really, 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 really is. It's so perfect. I just knew what I wanted to do from about 8 years old. I was walking with my mother and stepfather by Turtle Creek in Dallas. And it's a beautiful walk. And these kids were all outside with a teacher, and they were doing these weird things, like they were doing all the stuff. And so we watched them, they were clearly doing it for us, and we said, "What are you doing?" And we're pretending to be cigarette machines. "Would you like to try?" And so I did, and she thought I did a good job. So I got to join the class. Wow. And that was my first acting class.
Wow.
So and all my friends growing up said, and they still say, "You're so lucky you've known from such a young age what you wanted to do, because it gave you such a head start."
There's this great book called The Power of Positive Thinking. And in the book, they talk about, when you're a little kid, in the book, they use this as an example, a kid's walking by a newspaper every morning. He sees the printing press, he sees the people working, and eventually that little boy grows up to own that paper. And they just talk about how the influence around you when you're a little kid, you start projecting what your life could potentially be. And in a lot of cases, it starts at a very young age, like for you.
I swear, I was a latchkey kid. I got home at 3:00 every afternoon from, I would say, around third grade to 6th or 7th grade even, and came home and watched I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, Gilligan's Island, The Rifleman was on sometimes, Have Gun Will Travel. All these old reruns that they play in the afternoon that were all in black and white, or the Gilligan's Island was in color, and even the Flintstones and the Jetsons and all those. And they're just all comedies or sitcoms, So I would just watch those. I know most of those episodes by heart, and I swear I just did exactly what you just said. I just did what I saw, I picked up on it. Right. I made that my life, I guess.
Did you start seriously acting at any point between 6 and when you were a teenager?
Well, my mom, once she started modeling, she started doing tons and tons of commercials. And we lived in Dallas, and in Dallas they shot 40% of all national commercials there. Oh, wow. But also market, remember in Logan's Run, that huge building that they're all in? Yeah. That's where they would do the fashion shows. That's where the Dallas Market Hall is. And so I did fashion shows in there when I was a kid. We all did fashion shows in there. Angie Harmon's mother, Daphne, looks exactly like her. And she was a huge model in Dallas. And I did a fashion show with Daphne when she was pregnant with Angie. Isn't that funny? Wow. But anyway, so I would do those things with my mom. And so she had the longest running commercial. It was I think it ran for 14 years for Rice-A-Roni. Yeah, and wow. She did a lot of national commercials. And my little brother and sister did a ton of commercials as kids. They did their first national together at 10 months old and 4. April was 10 months and Mark was 4. And so they did a lot of that. And we were sort of like the Von Gilpins in Dallas. My mom would be Mrs. Baird's, putting up because Mrs. Baird's bread is a big brand there, and she'd be putting the bread in the oven. And my brother would be the DQ dude. And every time you looked it up, Gilpin was in the local or even national commercials.
Wow.
So I kind of grew up around that. And I really wanted to do that. But, you know, like my mom was very beautiful and everyone was very beautiful. I felt like kind of the ugly duckling of the family. So I never felt like very confident about going on commercial auditions and stuff like that. So I went to the Dallas Theater Center and like really wanted to learn to act. Not that the rest of them didn't. They were naturals, but I still, to this day, if I could have my brother when I'm, you know, working on an audition, because he was genius. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
But he was in a movie with River Phoenix and Molly Ringwald and a bunch of. Do you remember this? This was back in the 80s. There were these, I guess, kids would have these suicide pacts, like young teenage kids, and there was a movie of the week about it, and it was Paul Sorvino and Ellen Burstyn were the parents, and Zach, the kid from Goonies, you know, Molly Ringwald were the couple that made the pact. And when he died, my brother gave the eulogy, and he was his best. He played his best friend, and he was just brilliant.
It was a family affair.
But it's so funny because we never talked about it, you know. My mother used to say to me, "I don't know why you have to be the shyest actress in the world because I'm not an extrovert about it, but she is, you know, she'd always get in the front row. I never could really get in the front row. You know, I don't like to get in the front row, which is bad.
Right.
You get yourself in the front row or forget it.
Yeah.
You know?
You started training, you started preparing yourself for an opportunity. Obviously you love theater.
Yeah, I loved theater. That's how I felt when I walked in the back door, and it's how I still feel when I walk in a theater. I did apprenticeships and internships. I went to London and studied. I got kicked out of UT drama school. They didn't like my work, and so I went to London. And I, you know, I really loved it. And I was finally doing like this an internship at Stage West in Springfield, Mass. And we'd done 3 shows. You know, in the middle of winter, there were like these 8-foot snowbanks as we're walking down the street. I am not kidding. And some nights we were doing the Crucible, and there'd literally be more of us on stage, way more of us on stage than in the audience, in this beautiful theater. And this old elderly actor the last show of the Crucible. We all went over to have a beer, and he came in with his suitcase, and I was like, "Where are you going? Why do you have your suitcase?" He goes, "Well, I got to go back to New York. I got to get back to the city." And I'm like, "Why can't you just stay here tonight? You've been here for like 3 months." And he goes, "Well, no, my renter is leaving tonight because I, you know," like it was almost like the theater didn't put him up.
Right.
Like he had to like get back to New York, and it was like a 3-hour train ride. But I remember going to the artistic director and saying, Greg Boyd, and saying, "You guys, honestly, you guys aren't putting him up for the night? Like, are you serious?" And he goes, "Don't go to LA, Peri. Don't go to LA. You'll be ruined." You know?
That's how Roberts feels when he walks into the bar. That's usually how it goes.
So how did you get from theater and the work that you were doing and the training that you were doing to either Los Angeles or New York, whatever came next?
Well, when I came back from school in London, I went and apprenticed at Williamstown Theater Festival for 5 years in a row. And from there, I would go and live. I moved to New York, and there just wasn't a lot of work in New York for my age and my where I was. Like Madonna was on Broadway in Speed the Plow, and Melissa Gilbert was off Broadway in A Shayna Maidel. And I'm like, I either have to go to LA and cut a record or put on a TV show to do theater here. And there were no auditions. There was just nothing. So, you know, everyone would always do the big trek out to LA for pilot season.
Yeah.
And so I came out here. A funny story was in Williamstown, my last summer in Williamstown, my brother and mom and dad came to visit me, and they stayed in this little hotel that was across the street from the college. And I'd always go over there in the mornings and eat breakfast with them, this young couple that owned it. And I'd tell them all the funny gossip around Williamstown. And, you know, we were great friends. And so my mom and dad were staying there, and my brother, and this manager came with Dylan McDermott, because Dylan McDermott was doing a play there.
Yeah.
And the manager saw my brother And he said to the people that own the hotel, "Who is that kid?" And they said, "He's here visiting his sister." And he goes, "Do you think you could introduce us?" And they said, "Only if you meet her sister." So we met him together, and my brother said, "I'll go with you, if you take my sister." It was really. So then I got to New York, and I would sit in his office while he talked, and he was a very funny man. His name's Jerry Silverheart. He's a lovely man, and I met Cam Watson through him because he represented him, and that's a crazy story, but we decided to come out here together and share an apartment, and we got out here, and the writer's strike. It was the year of the writer's strike.
Oh, that's right.
86 or 87.
Yeah.
So we were, we didn't know what to do. We were both going back and forth. We had to sort of trying to be bi-coastal. Do you remember that term when everyone was trying to be bi-coastal? It was impossible, Now you could probably do it because of self-tape and everything. But then you couldn't do it, especially if you didn't have a ton of money.
Right.
So we had to sort of choose, and I gave up my apartment in New York, and then and moved to LA, because also I have my old day runners. It was like I'd go from one audition a month to like 40 a month in pilot season.
Right.
So that kept you fresh, because you were constantly going in for people and working on things.
Right.
Sitting there. And then a friend of mine gave me $60,000 that she had raised to do a play, but she gave it to me because she said, "I want you to pick the play, and I want you to put my boyfriend in it."
Oh, that's so indie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, Neil Lerner, and I read all these plays, and ones we liked, we'd get everyone together and we'd say, "Do you think this is worth the 60 grand? And we got one shot here. Do you think that's," and people would go, no, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. And finally, about the fourth one, everyone loved it. And it was called The Moderati by Richard Greenberg. And it was based on, he wrote it while he was at Yale Drama School. So it's based on Chris Noth and Patty Clarkson and people that, and that we knew.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliantly funny play. And we did it at the Tiffany, which was at that little theater on
It used to be on Sunset Boulevard. Sure. Yeah.
And Jeff Greenberg, the casting producer of Cheers, just about to be casting producer of FRAZER, and came to that, and he saw me on Monday, and I got to work ever since, pretty much.
Wow.
I've had some peaks and valleys, but I mean, it was great, because that's not why we did it, though. And we had Ron Link directing, and what I mean is we really did that play, and like Siobhan Fallon was in it. I don't know if you guys know who she is.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Siobhan just asked me, she just called me about 2 months ago and said, she calls me Little Squirrel because I was named after a squirrel. And she goes, "Little Squirrel, Mara Tierney just dropped out of this movie I wrote. Will you come and do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, just where do I go? Tell me." And I went and did it, and it's an amazing film that we just did. So, and that went back to I produced a thing. I mean, literally went and washed everybody's clothes. We had such a good time. And then I got to be in something she produced, which was really
amazing. So, all right, so let me stop you.
That's cool.
That's amazing. At this point in your career, you were studying, you were in New York, you were doing plays, you came here, someone believed in you and in your talent and said, "I have this amount of money, pick something, be in it, make it great." And out of something that you had no idea would turn into anything.
I was driven. It's like I had to, because that's what I do.
But you didn't know that anything would come of it.
No, exactly. I know what you're getting at.
But I think it's really cool, because from there came sort of the beginnings of, what ended up being a pretty great career for you.
Yes.
Without your commitment to being prepared, a lot of things would not have happened. You were just a great actress. You had it in you since you were a little girl. And as a result, great things ended up happening when you took the initiative because you were driven. So that was it.
Well said.
That's all I was going to say about that. Did you get the 60 grand back, or did it all go away?
We broke even. We didn't lose it. Yeah, we did, because it was a beautiful, beautiful production. I mean, Ron Link directed. I know.
Did her boyfriend become a star after that?
And he wasn't in it.
He wasn't in it.
I don't know what happened. I can't remember. My boyfriend was.
Oh my God!
But it was
your boyfriend in it?
No, it was bad. It was okay. Even John, her boyfriend, was okay. But she had a bunch of money that besides that 60, she had a couple of $100,000 that she had given to Bob Evans. She wanted to be a producer. And it was when Bob Evans was in the Lubitsch building at Paramount.
At Paramount, right?
And she had given that to him. And then something went out around that time. So they were working on The Saint. And I think they were hoping that she had some money for The Saint. And she was going out she lived in Chicago and she was raising more money. So she and her boyfriend and I went over to that house, to Robert Evans' house.
Okay. Is that why Christian knows where he lives? Because you knew where, okay, but his house.
I think everyone knows where he lives. Because he talks about being next to the Beverly Hills Women's Club, because he was such friends with Norma Shearer.
Yeah.
She lived right there too. But he it was just hilarious because, we were playing tennis and, we were being watched playing tennis,
right.
and I couldn't make one shot, and I was not a sexy tennis player. And, I was like throwing the racket across the thing or bang, I wasn't asked indoors but it was okay. But what was really funny was riding into Paramount to do FRAZER and hearing, listening to him read, The Kid Stays in the Picture,
right.
in his own, and driving by practically his office, or, he was a real character. Christian, he was sort of wandering into the women's room once at the Beverly Hilton.
Uh-huh.
I go, Christian, go get him. He's wandered in there. And Christian said he tried to go get him, and he was like, get away from me,
Oh.
But that. I mean, come on, he's funny.
It's such a weird business because magic happens every day for people. It really does. Like, magic happens. You could be broke and in a phone booth with your last $30 and get a call that, you're doing a series or a movie or whatever it is that may change your life.
I'm
really,
waiting on that call.
are you still waiting on that call, Tootie?
I'm still waiting. That's right.
It'll happen. No, but you think about people like Robert Evans and you think about his story, and he feels very indie. He fought to keep Paramount alive. He took a bunch of risks. When he did Love Story, which was an amazing movie, it saved Paramount. So I think it's just fun to talk about how people make it. It all feels very indie. It all feels very magical. I didn't know the story about the Tiffany's. I'm so impressed and amazed that you did that. And by the way, and you got all the money back. That's such a rare story. So you did the play. You had rave reviews. It was a success, and then you met a bunch of people that ended up sort of shaping what ended up being your career.
Yeah, Jeff Greenberg, who I just owe everything to, and he brought me in for Jimmy Burrows. Okay, so what had happened was about a year before that, I had done a horrible play called Normal Doesn't Mean Perfect, and it was a comedy, and I really wanted to learn about comedy. So I would drive out to Bellflower and rehearse in some guy's apartment. And we were working with a director who was from college, and we were doing this horrible play at the Pico Playhouse, where they used to have the baseball play every night. I'm talking about it's a great play, but it had run there for like 20 years. I think it's still running there. It's like on Pico, right by Motor, right by
right by Fox.
By Fox, yeah. So the thing that was interesting about this was I kind of learned about this teacher did teach me some rhythms that I got very confident about, sort of just some technical ways to do comedy, because a lot of times I think actors, and I know I did this, I'll speak for myself, I felt like comedy was kind of a magical thing that you hoped would happen and you didn't want to jinx it, and there's actually some technical things you can do to lay the groundwork for it to land or to fly, right. and depending on which metaphor you want to, but there are some things you can do to help it, and then experience helps, and great writing is the key. And so this play, I got to practice that. Well, literally that was another one of those plays where there was more of us on stage than there were in the audience, and there were only like 3 of us on stage.
Oh my God.
So, but one of those people was Jeff Greenberg, and right. Because he would see every play in town, he'd go and check out all the actors, because that is how good he is, and he wanted to know that he's a professional, and he wanted to know who was out there and the fresh actors that were coming in. So he had me come in for Wings. So when I read for Wings, he was casting Cheers at the time. And so this was supposed to be the daughter of a Greek immigrant running his coffee shop. So I go in all in black, right? Because I want to be anyone you want me to be, right? I don't want to dress any other way. I'm just a blank canvas, right? Say, I have a question. He goes, yeah, what is it? And I said, is this a Diane or a Carla or a Rebecca? Like I named the 3 women from Cheers, you know? Right. And he goes, why don't we just read? So I read, and then he goes, okay, I have 2 questions. First of all, it's Spokane, not Spokane. And I go, okay. And he goes, and the second question is, how much better can you look? And I said, oh my God, that's why I was asking. I mean, I can look a lot better. And he goes, how? What do you mean? And I go, hair, makeup, clothes. I don't know. She's the Greek immigrant running a coffee shop on a municipal airport on an island. I mean, how? And he goes, Peri, it's TV. Let's stack the deck.
Wow.
I went away and I came back in all dolled up. I go in and they decide that they want me to play the part. And then I go in and I take they make me bring my clothes in to meet with David, Peter, and David. And they pick out my costume. And my hair really curly. So, I just have really curly hair. So, and then I just had these red shoes I'll never forget. And David Angel's brother was like the Cardinal of Connecticut, like he's the highest Catholic man in Connecticut. And so when I pulled these red shoes out, David goes, where did you get those? The Vatican? It was just really fun. So I go in and I go to the audition. I go to the network audition, and I'm there with Steve Weber and Tim Daly. How did I go lose that one? And David Schramm, God rest him, he just passed away, and Rebecca Schaefer, and all these people were there. And I go in and read, and I will never forget Sheila Guthrie, his associate at the time, came running out and she goes, Peri, you're making too many facial expressions. You're making too many. You've got to slow down and stop making so many facial expressions. So I'm like, oh my God, what does that mean? And we just start running it over and over again. And then someone goes, does anyone have a cigarette? And I'm like, I have one, and we're not smoking it till I come out of that room. And so I went back in, and I just was so flummoxed, right? So I go back to the theater to do, this play where there's no one in the audience because it's so horrible. And I get a phone call from my manager, and he goes, I don't know what happened today. They're very on the fence about you, but they want you to come in and do a screen test on the Cheer stage tomorrow at Paramount. And I'm like, it's just so much for, if you've never done anything like that before, it's so huge. So I hang up the payphone in the alley. This is payphone. There's no cell phones. I go backstage and I look at everyone and I go, I have a screen test at like 10:30 in the morning. And they go, get the fuck out of here. Go, get out. And we didn't do a play. We didn't do a performance that night, which is terrible. But I don't think anybody was in the audience anyway. So I think it was okay. But it was really bad form to do that. But it was like I thought my head was going to explode. So the next day I get there an hour early. There's a lady walking around in the parking lot. I park my car, and this woman comes to me and she goes, are you Peri Gilpin? And I said, yes, I am. And she said, I'm Roz Doyle. I'll be the producer of Wings. Come with me. I knew you'd be here early.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
that's what it's named after.
Right.
And so she took me into makeup and hair, and she pointed out what she wanted done and what she thought needed attention, and in the coolest way. And they got me ready, and I go out on the Cheer set. Now this later became the FRAZER set. The whole thing happened on stage 25 at Paramount. But so I'm at the bar, and I've just got a rag, and I'm trying to clean the bar. Like I'm on the Cheer set. I could barely breathe. But the thing was, I had this line where I had to say, what is that smell? And is that peaches? And it was, he'd used peach shampoo or something. I was supposed to be kind of making fun of that. So Jimmy Burrows was going, it's a good smell. It's a good smell, And so, okay, I'm going to speed this up. So I couldn't do, I think, what he wanted me to do. So I had this book club, and in the book club was this guy named Russell, who was Jimmy's assistant. So through later on, I went through, I did not get that part clearly, but later on when I went in for FRAZER, I called Russell and I said, actually, no, it was called Flesh and Blood. So the next time I went in for Jimmy, it was for a show called Flesh and Blood, which I wound up getting, but I called Russell and I said, just tell me what I did wrong on the wings thing. Just tell me. What did he say? He had to say something. And Russell was like, I think he might have said that you didn't know how to take direction. I don't know if that's what he said, but I think that's what I heard, And so I'm like, if this man tells me to fart the Star Spangled Banner, do it. He said to do. And so I really do think, and also I was doing the Moderati. I was doing on stage every night, doing a play, a really difficult comedy. So I was warm and I was on my game. And when I went in, and if somebody gave me direction, I could change. It was something I was doing all the time, So that's another great reason to be doing a play, is to just stay warm, stay ready to go. So that was great. So I did that with Jimmy, and then I did another series with Jimmy, and then I did the fourth to the last episode of Cheers, because Jeff Greenberg played this joke. He had me come in his office and he goes, Peri, read this. Do you have any idea who could play this part? Because I've just been racking my brain. And I'm like, yeah, Andrea Dishy would be great for that. And I gave him like 6 names, And he goes, well, they were wondering if you'd want to come in and do that tomorrow. And I went, what? Are you serious? I get to be on Cheers? So I got to be on Cheers, and it was Woody Gets an Election, and I played a reporter that goes in and writes up an article that gets Woody elected to city council. But to be there for that, and they were throwing spitballs at me the whole time, and you can see it on film. You can see them throwing stuff, and they were so much fun. Plus, Jimmy had he was doing pieces from the next 4 shows, including the finale. Yeah. It was a 3-ring circus on that set. It was the most amazing time to be there.
So what's really interesting about from the time that you did the play to what you're talking about now is that you're really talking about TV royalty, the best of the best. When you're talking about Jimmy Burrows, when you're talking about Wings, when you're talking about Cheers, you're talking about the people that created the best shows in television, and you were sort of there in the epicenter. That's amazing. That's remarkable.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know how I landed there. I don't know how. Somebody told me a great thing early on. It was at the modeling agency in Dallas when I do some classes in the summer, TV classes, which I know nothing about. I know nothing about how to set up any of these cameras for Zoom or any of this. But she said, I was worried about something. She goes, worrying is not going to get you a job. That's just worrying about it. That's just gets you nowhere. And that was just a really, when someone says something to you at the right time and you're in the right frame of mind and you go, oh yeah, this isn't going to happen for me worrying about it. I got to go do something.
Right. It's just very magical, and it's fun to go down memory lane, especially when you realize that it's not always a beautifully paved road to success. There's all these ifs, ands, and you don't know if it's going to work out, and you're terrified and you're nervous and you don't get things, and then you do, and then it changes your life forever. Then magic happened. Then you ended up on a show that was on television for 11 years. America loved the show. The chemistry that you guys all seem to have, none of us obviously knew you, but we're watching the show, and there's something, the chemistry, I think, and the writing is what made the show such a hit and had such longevity. How did that, was that day one? Would you just walk in and that kind of comfort with other actors and your family?
We've all talked about that for years, and we just don't, I don't know. It was truly lightning in a bottle, but there were a lot of great factors. FRAZER was the continuation of Cheers. they were on the same soundstage. They literally took away Cheers stage, and I think they took it to the Smithsonian. And then they built a FRAZER stage. 2 weeks later, they were shooting a pilot. So it still had the same crew. The only new people on that soundstage were David and John and me and Jane. Everybody else had been there for years.
Right.
Well-oiled machine. You couldn't hide. They knew where all your hide. They knew where to find you. And we were all, I think it was our theater backgrounds. We all wanted to do a really good show for the audience because that was our impulse. And we didn't want to mess up. A few, maybe a couple of months in, we realized the audience really likes it when you mess up, you know. And then also John said, you know, if you mess up and they put it on bloopers, you get an extra $350, but you got to go get in the scene with them. So then it would, like, someone would mess up, everyone would run over and go, oh, too bad you messed up, so you could get your $350 from blooper.
It's hilarious.
We did it all the time. But that would crack us up. You know, I think a lot of it, I want to say with each person, Kelsey said this yesterday in this thing we did. He said, I fell in love with each of these people over and over again. And I just think we all liked each other so much. Everyone had such a, John was our dad, but he wasn't old enough to be our dad. You know, he wasn't old enough to be Kelsey's dad. He's only like 10 years older than Kelsey, but he kept everybody's head down. You know, Jane was this English. Jane and John were the two people that came from, you know, a penny. Do you know how hard it is to earn a penny? Like, John got a lighter from the gas station with a tank of gas once, and then he decided to quit smoking. And he'd shown us this lighter. He goes, you know, the gas station gave me this lighter because I got a tank full of gas. And so when he quit smoking, he gave Jane the lighter, you know, like, you take the lighter. It's just like really salt of the earth people, and just down to earth. And then and David is just so full of love. I just don't know how else to say it. He's just a loving, smart, cool guy, and so talented, and so, you know, disciplined. And everybody just, I think, and Kelsey just wanted it to be fun. He goes, the minute this becomes drudgery, the minute that's going to read, and we just need this to be fun. And he didn't want to stay any longer than we needed to. We literally would rehearse like 2 or 3 hours a day. We'd shoot the shows in 4 hours. Sometimes, you know, each show was different, but he and Jimmy Burrows totally, you know, I don't know, maybe Kelsey learned a little bit of that from Jimmy, because Jimmy would see you rehearsing in a corner and go, stop rehearsing, keep it fresh, you know, like, stop, just let it happen. And so it just became this, you know, Saul Rubinek came and called us the Flying Melindas. You know, he's like, you got to be fast to come here. Because we all had to learn to be fast, because Kelsey was fast because he'd been doing it for 9 years. You know, He knew his character, and he knew. But that was okay. It didn't. If you said, Kelsey, I have to rehearse that again, he'd do it. It wasn't that he just, his natural speed was to, he'd say, let's kick this pig, you know, let's go.
Right.
One time he went off stage and slammed the door and screamed because no one was going fast enough.
Timing is everything in comedy. Sometimes a joke won't hit if the timing of the scene is off. But you guys seem to be, I mean, there was so many jokes on every page.
Yeah.
It just seemed to be like a constant, you know, you guys constantly had to hit the punchline and then kind of move right into what was coming next, because the next thing was going to be either as funny or funnier, right? It had to be that way. Otherwise the show couldn't really sustain.
Jimmy had a way of knowing in the back of his head. He knew if you were about to blow up, but you were going to fix it. If he knew if you were about to blow up, but you couldn't fix it, he knew what was, and he would always stop, find a way to say, "Oh, what cut? What happened over there? That light?" You know, he just wanted to keep the laugh line clear, so he wouldn't blow it. He wouldn't let us blow it in front of the audience. And then once he'd done that a million times, you learned to do that for yourself. So you'd like get out. If you knew that you weren't setting yourself up well enough, or the setup didn't work, you could just go, whatever you need to do to give the audience a fresh run at it. So that, like you said, things could build and build and build.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was an amazing show. I look,
you know, it's all in the writing. I'm telling you, we all will say that, and we all did say it over and over again. The opening that script was like, it was just like candy. It was like Christmas when you got that script. Like, what incredible thing do I get to do this week?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, it was absolutely a team effort. You guys were all, the best of the best television show ever. Let me ask you this last question about FRAZER. You guys went 11 years, which is a long time. Did you ever feel like were you ever worried it wasn't going to get picked up? Like, did you finish the 6th season and go like, I wonder if we're coming back? Or did it get picked up for numerous seasons at one time?
You know, what was interesting was I did 3 pilots kind of in a row, and the other 2 were put pilots. Like we didn't even do it. We did a pilot in 11 episodes or 12 or whatever. With that one, it was a pilot, and we had to wait to get picked up. And there was we didn't know if it was going to get picked up. And there was a standing ovation at the night that the pilot shot on the stage. And we're like, I think we'll probably might get picked up, but no one could take it for granted because you can't, Right. So when we got picked up, we were super excited, and we only got picked up for the 13.
Right.
So I will never forget David Angel, Peter Casey, and David Lee coming onto the set and standing in the bleachers and going, "We got the back 9," and everyone was like, "Yes!" So excited. So yeah, that first season, we did not take any of that for granted.
Yeah.
Then after that, we were pretty sure we were going to get picked up.
So you knew you were an all-star team. You knew that.
We knew, and we also, back then, everyone knew the ratings and all that stuff. You knew,
Right.
You knew much more than you know now. But also, the whole thing was we tried so hard to enjoy it, and we pinched ourselves every day, and we talked about like, we're never going to have a job like this again. This is
Right.
never going to happen again. We're just so lucky to be here, and we talked about it all the time because you can't have another job like that.
Right.
You're never going to be that age. You're never going to be at that place in your life where you can really enjoy it. You're never going to be it was the perfect storm.
Right. That's so fun. Well, congratulations on that. It's really inspirational, just your whole journey from Texas to FRAZER, and how it happened, because it doesn't sound like it was perfect and easy. But when it did happen, it was magical. So, wow, that was awesome. She,
super talented.
Peri has had a storybook career. When you think of, people that have been on shows for over 10 years, FRAZER was a super hit.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
She was one of my TV crushes back in the day.
You know what? Mine too.
Jeez, man.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I
was too embarrassed to say anything.
Yeah.
I met her husband in New York with Robert.
Hey,
that's right.
Take it easy.
That's right. No, he did hang out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when I was all
Christian
bellow,
Vincent.
he started telling me this story. I was like, "This is the movie. Let's write a script." He's like, "Let's do it." Remember?
Dude, he's
funny.
so positive. He'll anything you want to do.
His story was really cool though, about living up there in upstate with all those artists in that house.
He's a very, very successful, talented guy. It's funny because when I, the way we all met is our kids went to preschool together.
Yeah.
And, when you go to preschool, you meet people here and there, but we had, our kids became close friends. And as a result, the parents end up becoming friends.
Yeah.
But we were,
sorry. Shit, dude.
Jesus.
I need some,
Fuck.
sorry.
You got it?
Pandemic. We were at a school fundraiser, and they were bidding on a parking space. And, in preschool, it's impossible to park, right? You're dropping off kids and people running across the street. So we really wanted the parking space. So him and I sort of looked at each other and were like, halfsies?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, halfsies, right? We didn't know each other that well. So he's bidding, and other people are bidding, and the thing's getting like up there, right? And I could just tell, I could see the look in his eye. He was like, I'm not going to lose. He just sat up in his like super cool suit, and he was just like lifting
he's a
his
big dude.
Yeah. And we got way up there to the point where I was like, "Ooh, shoot, I don't know if I'm in. I don't know if I'm in at this level." And then we just got outbid, but
you didn't get it?
No, we didn't get it, but we became really close friends because in that stress level of
that's like a little short film.
Yeah, exactly.
Of bidding on the parking space, we kind of connected. So Christian Vincent, one of my actually closest friends, I love the guy. I love Peri. We just had a Zoom date. Christian, Peri, myself, and Ann had a Zoom date where we were on the phone for
wine?
we drank wine. Ann and I drank tequila. They drank, vodka sodas.
Oh.
But anyway, super talented. is one of our finest actresses, super nice person, great mom, and a really good friend. So I know the great things are coming. I kind of wish I wish we could work with her. I wish I had the opportunity to do something with her. But her and I are developing a script, and hopefully we'll be doing something.
How about develop one with Davey Dave and I, dude? This is jacked up,
dude. I tried to do something with Davey Dave. When I first met Davey Dave, I came to him and I said, "Let's do a thing about." Let's do a movie where memes and social media are the crux of the storyline. So in other words, your story is driven by the mystery of memes and social media. So you have to find clues within the memes to get to where you want to get to the end of the movie.
Here's the thing, too, with that. Someone actually thought of that. I think Seth Rogen's got a meme movie coming out.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah.
Bastard.
Yeah.
So,
but it's crazy because memes, you get it, like, you get a lot of people checking your shit out, like The Rock and
there's a bunch of celebs on my stuff too.
I mean, that's how we met.
Yeah, exactly.
Lopez,
he was on my thing.
Lopez started following Davey Dave, and then one day I see Davey Dave here at Extra when I was on Extra, just chilling.
Yeah.
And then
who's this fool?
Yeah, I was like, who's this fool? Oh, I goes, I know that.
I said, who's this fool?
I said, that's the hip hop James D. That's what's up.
Anyway.
Okay,
funny.
take it easy.
Yeah, take it easy.
Anyway. So we're gonna have a new mixer next week, I hope. It's going to have call-in capability, so people will be able to call in on our cell phones.
Pandemic's even changing. Let's get into it. That's what's up.
Yeah, no, we're growing. We're growing. And no, I just want to say, everyone stay safe. Everyone stay calm. Might get a little bit worse, but we're in it together. I think we have to stay positive. And it's funny. I take a walk with my wife every day, and it helps so much because sometimes I'm in the house and I start to feel a little bit afraid and a little bit nervous, and I can't quite figure out like what I'm feeling. And then you get out in the day and you see the sun, and you see the trees, and you see people walking around. You realize it's gonna be okay. So I gotta say, getting out is a big factor. And dudes, okay, so I'm so glad I thought of it. I remembered this.
That's time to wake up.
So last night I get a little Glenfiddich, right? Mm-hmm. I sit down with my wife. My wife starts to get into her really comfy cocoon where she's like, oh, I'm so comfy, I don't want to move right now. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching like some documentary about the first guy who was on a bicycle that flew 20 feet in the air off of a ramp, and my wife turns to me and she goes, you know what, the last thing I want to do is lay here and watch a documentary about some dude jumping on a ramp. So I was like, okay. So I go through the channels and I find A Few Good Men just starting. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I go to A Few Good Men, and I felt so old, dude, because have you guys seen A Few Good Men?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but 20 years ago.
All right.
Yeah.
So I put it on, and every single scene is amazing. Every single word out of these dudes' mouths, like Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, Jack Nicholson, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon was in it. I could probably name, there was so many good actors in it, and every scene was a building scene. I mean, you could watch it and it could be like a clinic for good filmmaking if you think about how that film starts, to where you end up in that scene where Jack Nicholson admits that he called the code red. Yeah. It's the most incredible building of a movie, to where it climaxes in this courtroom with Tom Cruise going after him when he knows he could be court-martialed, when he knows he could lose his career, and he goes after this decorated, whatever.
So what is it? Is it the script? Is it the directing or the acting? Or is it all the above?
You know what? I'm going to break this down in like 10 seconds. If I had to tell you how I felt, I actually teared up a little bit. And it wasn't because of the subject matter. It was because of the good work. Because I felt so emotional about how important it was to these actors and to the director and to the people involved with this picture. I was emotional. I was like, this is amazing. Like they thought about everything that's coming out of their mouth. They thought about every angle of every camera, about what they were wearing. Yeah. And how important the Marines were to these guys, right? And a code and honor. And it was a crazy thing to watch, because I had seen the movie probably twice, but there was something really amazing about knowing that Tom Cruise thought about every single word coming out of his mouth and what it represented, and so did Jack Nicholson. It all was like, if it doesn't happen the way they say it, if he doesn't entice that dude and aggressively go after him. I mean, there's so much going on in that one particular scene when Tom looks at his co-counsels and they're like shaking their head like, don't do it. Don't go after him. It's not worth it.
Yeah. And
then Jack Nicholson gets up and walks right by him and he goes, I haven't dismissed you yet. And he's really rude to him. And he's like, then Jack Nicholson says, you got to respect me. And then he tells the judge, what kind of operation are you running here? And then the judge says, I think you need to respect this courtroom. And then when Tom goes after Jack Nicholson, you can see Kevin Bacon stand up in the background going, Judge, he's trying to object, but Tom is so far into the aggression with the witness that you can't even hear Kevin Bacon.
He's on a mission.
Yeah, and they've locked horns already, so there's no way to stop it. But all of that, if that dance doesn't get choreographed with people who care, I bet you they talked about it for a day. I bet you they talked and how are we going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to stand up, and the camera's going to be here, and I'm going to see that guy in the background. It was the craziest thing.
Or those actors just that good where they felt it and just went with it.
I mean, but it had to matter the same to everybody on the set. It had to matter. Every single one of those dudes had to care as much as every other person. Yeah. And that's, I think, what makes a good film. And when you see it happen in front of you, you're like, I don't even know what to say.
That's kind of like Made in Mexico. It's coming together just like you might tear. You're going to tear. I don't think you might. You are going to tear.
I'm already tearing up.
It's
So that was a confession about that movie, but it was incredible, dude. It made me want to see more Tom Cruise stuff. It made me want to see more Rob Reiner stuff. Rob Reiner directed it.
Yeah.
And who did the music?
Extreme Music.
Mark Shaman.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
that's our boy.
Your boy Mark Shaman. Mark Shaman did the music. That's right. All of it. Look, sometimes it comes together. We can't, as filmmakers, always make everything work. But sometimes it really does come together. And it's all in the eye of the beholder. I'm sure some people may watch the movie and not think it's as great as I think it is. But when filmmakers, actors, directors, when they're honest and they care and they take their job seriously, that it just comes through, man. And, I personally, I think Tom should have probably won an Academy Award for a couple of movies he did. Born on the 4th of July, he should have won, or at least been nominated. Maybe he was nominated. I don't even remember. But, Rain Man, for sure, should have been nominated. And I think A Few Good Men, I was watching it going like, holy shit.
Done good work.
Yeah, so I probably spent too much time talking about that. But I was massively moved by the Glenn Fetish and the pandemic and watching that film and just thinking like, man, that is something that you don't see that often anymore. And is it because I'm old? Because old people say they don't make movies like that anymore.
I'm going to tell you why. You know why, Roberts? Because you can't handle the truth.
What do you want? I want the truth. Oh man, it was amazing. Anyway, well, guys, what a pleasure! It was great to get out of the house for a second and
no beers on this one.
No beers on this one. No beers. No tequila. It was great to get out of the house, see you guys, do the show, talk to Peri. But let's do it again next week. Hopefully things calm down. Doesn't sound like it's going to, but hopefully we all stay safe. If right. You're listening, keep your family safe. Stay creative. Watch some good movies, and we'll see you next time on Let's Get Into It.
Robert's kind of got into it right there. A little emotional feeling.